In a small village nestled at the foot of a green hill, there lived an old woman named Granny Mira. She was well known in the village, not because of her wealth or achievements, but because of her unwavering happiness. No matter the situation, good or bad, Granny Mira always had a smile on her face and kind words on her lips. People often wondered how she stayed so content. Life wasn't easy for her. She lived alone in a small cottage. Her husband had passed away many years ago, and her children had moved to distant cities. Yet she radiated a warmth that made her home the most welcoming place in the village. One day, a young man named Samir, weighed down by the struggles of life, decided to visit Granny Mira. He had lost his job and felt his dreams slipping away. He thought if anyone could teach him the secret to happiness, it would be her. When Samir arrived, Granny Mira greeted him with her usual bright smile and invited him inside. The aroma of freshly brewed tea filled the air as they sat near a crackling fire. "Granny Mira," Samir began, "I don't understand how you do it. You've faced so many hardships, yet you're always happy. How is it possible?" Granny Mira chuckled softly. "Ah, Samir, happiness isn't about what happens to us. It's about how we choose to see what happens to us." Samir looked puzzled. "What do you mean?" Granny Mira reached for two small jars on her table. One was filled with honey, the other with vinegar. She held them up and said, "Every day life gives us situations. Some are sweet like honey and some are bitter like vinegar. But here's the secret. Even when life hands you vinegar, you can still find a way to make it sweeter." Samir leaned forward, intrigued. "How do you do that?" Granny Mira smiled. "It's simple. When something good happens, be grateful and savor it like honey. When something bad happens, don't resist it. Instead, look for the lesson or hidden blessing. Gratitude and perspective are the keys." She paused and pointed to her modest cottage. "Take my life, for example. I could be sad that I live alone, but I see it as peaceful. I could cry about my children being far away, but I feel grateful they are happy and healthy. I choose to focus on what I have, not what I lack." Samir thought about her words. "But what if something really terrible happens, like losing someone you love?" Granny Mira's eyes softened. "That's the hardest test of all. When my husband passed away, I thought my world had ended. But I realized grief and love are two sides of the same coin. I chose to honor his memory by living fully, knowing he would want me to be happy." She handed Samir a small jar of honey and said, "Take this as a reminder. Every time you feel overwhelmed, think of the sweetness life has given you. And remember, no storm lasts forever. The sun always returns." Samir left Granny Mira's cottage feeling lighter, as though a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Over time, he began practicing her advice, finding gratitude even in the smallest blessings and searching for lessons in the trials he faced. Years later, Samir became known as one of the happiest men in the village. And whenever someone asked him for his secret, he would smile and say, "It all began with a wise old woman and a jar of honey."